welcome to Nah But For Real, where besties who heal together keep it real together. I'm Allie, and this is my co-host Jay, and we are super excited to have you here to join us for another episode. And if you haven't already, make sure that you are following us on all social media platforms at nbfr podcast, and we can just go ahead and jump right into this. Okay. I keep looking at Lo, and she's like, I have this thing. You know those things where you can pin, those little tacks, and you can pin it into like,
A bulletin?
yeah, I have a bulletin, and I guess
Mhm.
she thinks it's one of her scratch toys because she's definitely scratching at it.
I think
But
they give cats like cork boards and bulletins to scratch on. I think that's like their thing.
makes sense because she's always trying to like claw at the different things I have on there. But
All right, let me get my niece, my cat niece, a Christmas gift, a cork board.
okay, so getting into this, whoa,
Lord, Allie's dying.
getting into this icebreaker. Describe a repetitive lesson that you have experienced, and
Mhm.
how did you finally pass this?
For me, a repetitive lesson that I have experienced is going to the gym. I don't know how to make this sound, but going to the gym, weight loss, the whole zhuzh. Um, the repetitive lesson for me is dieting is not a thing for me. Like, I don't know why I can't accept that. That's not a thing, and it probably shouldn't be a thing for a lot of people. And that has been a lesson that I keep jumping back on the train. Like, I'm gonna start this diet, and then I realized, I'm like, Jay, it's not gonna be this simple. Like, some days are gonna be up and some days are gonna be down. This is a lifestyle. You can't just hop on and try it and just expect the best for the rest of your life. It doesn't work for you. It's okay. It does not work for you. And that is a lesson that I have to stick with because a lot of times I want, weight loss progression to go faster or just everything to just be exactly how I want it right now. And I have to remember that it's just not dieting. It's just not for me. It doesn't matter if it's keto. It doesn't matter if it's whatever diet you all choose, to put out there, whatever fads are popping at the time. It ain't gonna work for Jay, and I just have to accept that. I have to accept that. I have to just learn how to eat healthy, and I know how to eat healthy to be consistent, eat healthy, and do what's best for my body. How about you?
I feel it. I feel it.
Yeah.
I would say, and you're gonna be like, oh yeah, definitely. So I would say putting a lot of my energy into things and then getting burnt out.
Oh
Like
yeah.
when I'm like, when I see something, I'm like, oh yeah, let's go. And then I put all of my energy into it, as much energy that I have. I'll plan it out to the T. I'll write down everything that I need, everything that needs to be done. And then I get super burnt out, like
Mm-hmm.
after doing all of that. And so that's what I learned about myself is that I continuously push myself past what I should. And that's what causes that burnout. So I'm like, okay, let
Yeah.
me not do that anymore. So did you say how you resolved it? Or I guess you just resolved yours by just
Yeah,
learning.
by reminding myself to eat healthy, but and
Hmm.
not get so tripped up on the scale and
Yeah.
size.
Okay.
But I can agree with the whole burning out that I be planning my life to a T, like you just said, and get burnt out from planning. Yeah, I don't even do take the first step.
Yep.
I'm
Yep.
burned out from being in my notes. Like, that's
Yeah.
crazy. That's
Yeah.
wild. Yeah.
So what I learned that helps me is actually adding in things I enjoy sporadically throughout my day.
Mm-hmm.
And either I haven't figured this part out yet if I do best when it's around the same time every day or just randomly. A part of
Mm-hmm.
me feels like randomly works for me because of how my schedule works. Sometimes I'll have a client during a certain time, or sometimes I won't have a client. Sometimes they'll like cancel, and then I'll work on some paperwork and have like extra time. So then I'm like, oh, well, maybe I can go outside for a second and walk to my mailbox, get my mail. And while I'm outside, just kind of paying attention to like the nature, the sound, the air, because I really do enjoy that. So
Yeah.
adding things that I enjoy just randomly throughout my day to help me with that burnout feeling of feeling like I'm on go, 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 and just like slowing things down and say, hey, pay attention to this. You like to sing, or you like to make TikTok videos, you like to go out for a walk, or you like to sit in your hammock and just sit there and listen to your music. So
Mm-hmm.
just doing things that I like to do has helped me with that piece a lot.
Yeah.
And so if you haven't caught on yet, Since our relaunch, our episodes have been centered around personal growth. And we have touched topics from becoming teachable to being responsible for our mental health and becoming the author of our own narratives. And so our episodes have been a reflection of our lives. And so, Jay, how would you describe your personal growth this year?
The biggest lesson that I've learned this year is that small steps make a big impact. And I said that on our Magic Minds, during our Magic Mind sponsorship. I said that that's been like my mantra toward the end of this year. And that's what I'm starting to realize about myself is that, like you said, you get burnt out really quickly from trying to be Superwoman all overnight. And sometimes you have to realize, like, you got to buy a cape, you got to buy them shoes, you got you got to go to training. There are major steps that we miss out on because we're trying to be a completely different person the next day. And I'm starting to just learn to take those small steps and make sure that I'm enjoying every part of each journey, every single small step, so that I can ultimately reach a new goal or ultimately become that person that I see myself becoming. But I'm starting to enjoy little things going on in my everyday life, like finding out what I like to do, finding out things that are different from myself than yesterday, just trying to improve on tiny little pieces of myself every day. Maybe I didn't put the dishes up yesterday, and today I'm not only going to wash, dry, but I'm going to put them up today. Or I'm going to do all my laundry and actually get it off the bed today. I'm not going to leave it on the bed. I'm going to fold it and put it in the closet. And that makes a difference, overall when it comes to the person that I'm trying to be. So yeah, little steps make a big impact.
I love that. It makes me think of this once again, another client. It makes me think of this client, and I was telling them, they're like, yeah, like I have this vision of myself and where I want to be, and it just seems like I'm not getting there.
Mm-hmm.
And I use this analogy in saying that we have babies and we're teaching these babies how to, well, the client basically says like, I'm supposed to be doing this, but it seems like I keep falling. I keep failing and I just can't get it right. It seems like I make take 2 steps forward, 3 steps backwards. It's almost how they were describing it.
Mm-hmm.
So then I'm like, yeah, when we're teaching little babies how to walk, sometimes they're wobbling over and they'll fall over and they'll get back up and then they'll try to, walk again, and then they might fall again, they might crawl and then get back up and then walk again. I said, but what we don't see is a baby crawling and then stand up and just start running.
That'd be creepy as hell. Scary as hell, but that is very true.
Right. Like we don't see that. And we do get to see the progression of that child learning how to do this skill of walking and keeping their balance. And eventually it gets to the point where we don't see them falling anymore. Now they are full blown sprinting
Mm-hmm.
and running around and so being able to pay attention to the small things like you said, and
Yeah.
how each little step, even if you do fall, each little step is progressing you to being able to accomplish bigger things than you can imagine.
Yeah. Right.
I
No. Yeah. Yeah. And we got to remember to give ourselves grace just like we give those babies grace, because we were those babies. We are those babies. I
Yes.
always say in my 20s, especially, like, this is the toddler phase, y'all. The before everybody was making our own decisions, and we're finally able to make our own decisions, and we're gonna mess up. Literally, we're gonna mess up every day. We're gonna be a new person, and things are gonna change every day. But we have to remember to give the same grace you would give to that 2-year-old who keeps falling, or the 2-year-old who just can't say spaghetti. Just
Right.
give ourselves that grace. It's spaghetti.
But yes, okay. So I would say for my own self, my personal growth this year was understanding my mental health. That was
Mm,
the biggest thing. And not only just understanding my mental health, but also seeing the benefits of what being med compliant could look like. So
mm,
before this year, I was like very hesitant about taking medication because I was like, I'm gonna take the holistic route. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do that, and it
yeah.
just never worked for me to take the
Mm-hmm.
holistic route. So it got to the point where I was like, okay, anxiety is overwhelming. It's really hard for me to stay concentrated. I might need something different. And that's when I started taking like my meds for anxiety originally. And then I started to notice that even taking my meds, I'm barely consistent with it. I'm still having anxiety and this and that, my concentration all over the place. That's when I started taking Adderall for my ADHD symptoms.
Mm-hmm.
And now I see a complete difference in being able to know exactly what it is that I want to say, form my sentences the way I want to say them without being distracted in the middle of them or something happening. And then I'm like, wait a minute, what were we just talking about?
Yeah.
So it's just really nice to kind of see the progression of where I am today when it comes to my mental health and understanding it and understanding being med compliant versus this time last year where
Hmm.
Shorty was struggling. So
Yeah.
I would definitely say that is it. And you know what? I actually had another one, which was showing up for myself and self love and not really having this negative self talk. That was one of
Hmm.
the biggest personal growth things for myself as well. Is I will always kind of blame myself if I wasn't able to do something. I'm like, oh man, Alondra, like you can't even do that. And now I'm getting to the point of showing myself grace where if I can't do it in the moment, I tell myself, oh, it's okay if you can't do that right now. Let's just kind of take a moment and eventually you'll be able to do it. Eventually it'll come around and you may not be able to do that yet. So telling
Yeah.
myself it in that way to help myself not feel so bad about like not being able to do certain things in my present space. So
Hmm.
those are my personal growth.
Period. Come on, personal growth. Yes.
Come on, 2022. Okay,
Right.
so sometimes our goals they're not met though. So we met a few goals this year, of course, you know.
Hmm.
But we also the flopped on a few goals.
Hmm.
So Jay, where would you say you fell short of your goals this year?
Consistency. And that is a goal that I struggle with every year. It is okay. Like I said, I'm a baby. This is just a really long time to learn how to walk. And so it's all right. Yeah, consistency has always been a struggle for me. Even as a child, consistency has been a struggle for me. So a lot of times I have a problem not so much as being consistent when it's other people's goals on the table. If I'm at work, you can ask any of my coworkers, top tier performer. I'll make sure everything is done on time. I make sure everything is done consistently. They're always going to use my names in those settings. Anytime my friends ask me for help, I'm always the consistent friend to go to. But when it comes to me and my own stuff, man, I'm on the back burner. But I will say that it has been up and down this year. I have seen myself put a little bit more energy into myself in other months in different areas of my life than other months. And then sometimes I can completely forget about myself and not be consistent with myself at all. So that is still something I struggle with. But like I said, small, tiny steps. I've at least learned how, different methods in which I can be consistent and things that work a little better for me. But, I have to be consistent with those methods too, which also sucks when you suck with consistency. So yes, I struggle with it, still struggling. We'll check on me next year and see how that's going. I'm assuming that was yours too, Allie.
Oh, for sure. You
Oh,
already
for
know it.
sure.
You
For
know it. It's bad. Me, Jay and I always joke around how we're so much alike. I have the diagnosis of ADHD. We know she has
For
ADHD.
sure. I say that all the time. I know. It's no point. Why waste doctor fees? Like, come on.
Exactly. She already knows. It's like a lot of the things that I see myself going through, she goes through as well. So, self-diagnosed ADHD. That's what it falls down to. So,
Hmm.
yes, inconsistency was mine as well. Inconsistency in the gym, inconsistency with my social media, inconsistency with my spirituality, inconsistency with my
Man.
cooking, inconsistency, inconsistency in so many different spaces. And as I'm even thinking about that, it just has me thinking like, so my husband he read this book. It's called Adult Children: Secrets of Dysfunctional Families. He said it's a great book, so I want to read it too.
Mm.
But he read this book and he said in the book this is what stood out to him is that we are meant to fail. Like
Hmm.
we don't have the knowledge to know exactly what's going to happen, when it's going to happen, and what to do about that certain
Yeah.
thing that's going to happen. So because of that, we are designed and set up to fail, and that's why we shouldn't be afraid of failure, and that's why we should know that even if we aren't consistent, there like what is consistency? Like
Yeah.
what do you deem as consistency? Because for me, I would say, oh, consistency is doing it every single day.
Hmm.
And then it's like if you think about it, what's the reality of that consistency every single day for your lifestyle? And then once I come to that conclusion, I'm like, oh, that's, I need to show some grace for myself, because
Yeah.
the consistency at this point in my life in areas that I want to be, such as the gym and cooking, social media, it can get really hard because of the work I do.
Yeah.
So just, giving yourself that moment of breathing and saying it's okay.
Yeah, working with your environment. That's something that's key to consistency. Like you said, everybody's consistency is going to look different. And that's something that I had to learn as well. The more we stay on TikTok or any other social media, we see people who have the lifestyles either that we want or looks like what we want. And they tell us all the time, you have to be consistent. You have to be consistent. And it's like, some people cannot do this every day. I had to learn, you can't go to the gym every day if you got to be downtown at 9:00. That's just not going to work for you. Stop saying that. Stop saying that you're going to get up and go at 4:00 in the morning and then be tired and then have to wake up and go downtown and slip and slide around in the snow. No, it's just not. And stop also trying to be as consistent as you were maybe 2-3 years ago in a certain department, because that's not where you are right now. And like you said, just finding that grace and working with your lifestyle, not against it, so that you can eventually get to see the goals that you want to get to. So just allow don't keep looking on Instagram or TikTok and comparing yourselves to people who are literally fitness gurus and that's their job. Because I'm sure working, like you said, you go to work every day, you're consistent with that. And that's something that, when I talk to my therapist, we talked about a lot, because I always beat myself up for not being consistent. And she's like, you got a college degree. You obviously were consistent when going to class. I'm like, you're right. So she's like, find things that you are consistent in and, pat yourself on the back for that. Pat yourself on the back for that. I'm sorry. Allie's cat is a trip. But yeah, so find things that you are good at and maybe follow those schedules. If you're something like work, for me now, I'm great at getting up and going to work every day. I'm great at, cooking. That has been something I've been consistent with. So just find things that you are consistent with and maybe apply those to things that you are not. That's actually called habit stacking. And we can talk about that later, but there's a book called Atomic Habits. And that's called habit stacking, where you add on a habit that you want to create on top of habits that you're already well versed in. So yeah, habit stacking. Look it up.
Like that.
Yeah.
Okay, so as we're talking about the goals that we weren't able to meet this year, we did kind of already hit how we got ourselves back on that track, which showing ourselves that grace, just understanding that it's okay if you're not as consistent at doing something as you were a few years ago, or as you were even last week, or as you were yesterday, and showing up for yourself, particularly for that moment, for what you need,
Mm-hmm.
versus saying, oh man, like you didn't even go to the gym anytime this week, and not even realizing that literally every day this week you worked your ass off to get certain
Mm-hmm.
paperwork done and turned in, and you just didn't have the time to get into the gym this week, and that's okay. So showing up is a huge way to help getting yourself back on track for the goals that you have, and remembering, okay, not having this hardcore expectation that I have to go to the gym 3, 4, 5 times a week in order for me to feel consistent. But
Mm-hmm.
knowing that just showing up for yourself and making that acknowledgement, I would say that's still consistency, and trying
Yeah.
to change the brain, the way we think about certain things, to help ourselves out when it comes to those expectations that we set for ourselves, but they're not met.
Yeah. For sure.
For sure. What do you think, Jay? Is there anything that you would say for you, other than what we've already said, that's gotten you back on track of those
Mm-hmm.
goals?
This got me back on track of my goals for this year.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, so one of my goals for this year was like learning financial literacy. And for me, what I've intentionally done, because I know that I spend so much time on social media, instead of beating myself up like, bad, you can't get on social media, when I know half of my job is social media. This takes a lot of social media, and people are sending me things involving social media every day. I'm just not gonna just not be on it. There's gonna be times where I can take a break, and there's gonna be times where I just have to be on it. So what I've encouraged myself to do is, while I'm on there, incorporate things that I want to learn. Like right now I'm following a couple people who speak Spanish, and they give like little 20-second Spanish lessons. And a huge one for me has been financial literacy. So I follow a lot of Black, might I add, accountants, or Black financial financial mitigators, whatever the case may be, that speak about, finances and understanding personal finance and debt and all that stuff. So what I've done, like I said before, is I feel like that can be considered habit stacking, where I'm already on social media. So let me try to incorporate something that I want to get into, and doing that in other parts of my life as well has actually helped me out a lot. It's learning about habit stacking and making sure that I'm pouring into those habits that I already have and acknowledging those habits that I already have, because other people don't have those same habits and they could help somebody else. So, incorporating anything that I want to learn, any areas that I want to grow in, such as personal finance for me, because that's a huge one, y'all. If you're in your 20s, I would encourage you to start looking down to your personal finances, because it's not fun. But looking at my spending habits, all of the above, I've been able to use what I already do and something that I considered a negative habit, or not such a great habit to have, which is scrolling social media all day, and make sure people who I follow, now my algorithm matches what I want to learn. So that's why for these episodes, even I've been able to do more research into things that we talk about, because they're in my algorithm all day long. And this is what I'm listening to all day long now. So that I could consider is what has helped me this year.
Mhm. And so, as we're coming to a conclusion of this episode, and all we talked about, history being on replay and taking these different lessons that come in and out of our life, a New Year resolution. And I guess I'll share mine first, and then we'll leave it off with your New Year resolution. My New Year resolution for this upcoming year, 2023, is to learn, understand, and follow the language of my intuition.
Mm.
That's it. That I really need to learn to understand the language of it, because I always have these things that come in and out for me, and I want to be able to distinguish between my desires, my intuition, and my anxiety. So yeah, that would be my 2023 New Year resolution.
I like that one.
Thank you.
So I actually had my New Year's resolution written down, which was grow in your purpose. That was a huge one for me, and that was what I kept putting on my affirmations board and whatever. But I watched a TikTok, and like I just said, I'm always swiping on TikTok, and I've really been involved in spirituality, and especially Eastern spirituality and African spirituality. So it started I started learning about how the calendars are so different in uncolonized countries, of course, and how they really they mimic their calendars, mimic the year. So they mimic the nature, what's going on in nature, and how a lot of times our bodies need to mimic nature as well. So I told myself I'm not gonna make a New Year's resolution until springtime, or right before springtime, because that's when I want to start incorporating new things that I want to pick up, because that's when new growth happens during the springtime, and that's when flowers start growing back and grass starts growing back. And I just feel like right now is a time of hibernation. Right now is a time to rest myself, and the habits that I feel like that I need to get rid of, maybe getting rid of those, dusting those off, and really growing into the habits that I do have, and empowering myself in those habits, instead of trying to, like I said, be superwoman overnight, so that when springtime comes around, I can say I want to do this and start picking up on those things, and all those bad habits that I have will be shed, just like all the leaves and all the snow. So yeah, around springtime, hit me up and I'll let y'all know what it is for 2023.
Okay, I like that. I actually have a book when we I really want to see what it's called. Actually, give me a second.
You gonna look it up?
It's right here.
Oh.
It says seasonal self-care rituals: eat, breathe, move, and sleep better according to your dosha. Susan Waste Bolin. So it basically goes into the seasons and the self-care that you should provide yourself based off of that season, to have a more holistic and lifestyle. So
Yeah,
I like think about this. I said, ooh. But yes, I like that. We got some good.
Right. So think about incorporating that if you feel like kind of, still it's snowing. If you live, if you're in the Midwest or anywhere where it's snowing, it's cold. don't beat yourself up for not wanting to go outside and go to the gym and slip around in the ice so that you can go to the gym. It's okay to work with what you have, like we said earlier, work with your environment. And right now is a time for hibernation. Right now is a time to love on your loved ones, love on somebody, care about somebody, give somebody a call, work on those, work on relationships, work on, that's what we do during hibernation time. And then we could pop out in the spring.
Period. So go ahead and drop down below your New Year resolution, and not even just your New Year resolution, but maybe even a repetitive lesson that you found yourself in, and how you found yourself learning from that lesson. How did you pass that test? And leave that down in the comments. And go ahead, make sure you follow us on all social media platforms at nbfr podcast, and make sure that you are liking and subscribing to our YouTube channel at Now But For Real. And until next time, we will talk to you later.
Next year.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.